Hey there, hope you're doing good. Today we'll talk about why you should use an SQL database over a NoSQL database. Before we get into that, there are a couple of technologies you should consider: low code and Firebase. If you haven't considered them, you should, because they will result in higher productivity than the standard approach of building a separate backend, front end, and database and gluing them together. So you should consider these technologies. If you would like my help in evaluating them, leave a comment or contact me and I'll get back to you. In this video, I am assuming that you have already explored low code and Firebase and concluded they are not the right fit for you, and that you need to build a separate backend, front end, and database the traditional way. In that situation, you should pick a SQL database over a NoSQL database for a few reasons. First, SQL enables faster iteration. Why is that? When you are building a product, you have assumptions in mind, so you model data in a certain way. When you iterate with users, they give you different feedback, so you change the way the product works. So the product evolves multiple times. And when it does, the way you originally modeled your data is no longer appropriate. With a SQL database, you can use joins to reshape your data how you want it. So the way data is stored can be different from the way data is accessed or used. NoSQL databases typically don't offer joins, which means you need to foresee how you are going to use your data and model it that way, which is very hard. Nobody has a crystal ball. A SQL database is a pencil, while a NoSQL database is a permanent marker. When starting out, use a pencil. The second reason why I would recommend a SQL database is that NoSQL doesn't support analytics. If you want to know whether your business this month is less or more than your business last month, that's analytics. And you will have to build it separately, a separate data warehouse if you are using a NoSQL database. This doesn't make sense for 99% of use cases. It's overkill. At Google scale, sure, but you are not Google. If you use a SQL database, on the other hand, you can use the same database for analytics. You don't have to have a separate data warehouse to maintain. The third reason why you should prefer SQL is that NoSQL requires a high level of skill. Unless you understand everything in this blog post, how to model data for NoSQL, which itself is a summary of a talk at AWS. Unless you understand everything here, NoSQL is too sophisticated. If you use it without understanding how to use it, you are only creating a problem. One company I used to work with did this, and it slowed down their development. Every week they had to pay the price. It wasn't a one-time cost. On the other hand, everyone is taught how to use a SQL database in college. So the level of skill needed is completely different. Fourth, SQL databases are open source. They don't lock you into a particular cloud. You can use AWS, Google Cloud, Linode, DigitalOcean. You can even run it on premise. Even if you are on AWS, you have the option of running MySQL yourself on an EC2 virtual machine for half the cost of RDS, a managed service. Whereas NoSQL databases are often available only in a hosted form like DynamoDB or Google's Spanner. So you have less lock-in. There's also knowledge, right? Whatever you have learned using a SQL database or any open source tool is more likely to be more useful in the next gig, because all these are an investment and you want investments to have high return. You have limited time in the day, you are not in college anymore. So that is one more factor. NoSQL makes sense if you are targeting high scale, like hundreds of millions of users. Suppose you are building the next WhatsApp. Consumer messaging apps either succeed at scale or fail. In such a case, you need NoSQL. But 99% of products are not like this, and SQL works perfectly for them. Some people have a misconception that SQL can't scale. Actually, it can. I used to run a MySQL database with more than 100 million rows on a server with 64 GB memory. And RDS offers a MySQL database with 1 terabyte of memory. So there's a lot more headroom to scale. So it's a misconception that NoSQL scales and SQL doesn't. I mean, that's true if you're Google, but again, you're not. So these are the 5 reasons why I would recommend a SQL database. You can iterate faster. It works for analytics. Everyone has the level of skill needed. It's open source and has no lock-in. It scales well enough for your use cases. If you'd like me to help you use the right technology, my consulting link is in the description.